Join me to paint this beautiful still life using watercolor. Painting a symmetrical object can be challenging for many, so I'm sharing a simple trick to make it easier. First step is to draw one half of the wine glass. Simply copy this onto a scrap piece of watercolor paper. The second step is to cut a straight line on the right side of the paper about 1 centimeter away from the stem of the wine glass. The third step is to cut out the shape of one half of the wine glass, which can then be flipped to create a perfectly symmetrical wine glass. Now I'm using our cutout paper as a stencil to draw the left side of the wine glass. I flip the cutout paper and place it correctly along the central axis to draw the right side of the wine glass. We have created a symmetrical wine glass. In this image, I have marked all the details on the glass. I'm going to use the wet on wet technique to paint the background. To start, I slightly wet the background. For this painting, we will be using only two pigments, Payne's Gray and Vermilion Hue. I'm mixing Payne's Gray with small amount of Vermilion Hue to create a warm neutralized gray shade which I'm using to paint the background. If you notice in the final result of my painting, you will see that there are 5 areas where I have preserved the paper white for the highlights. So you should be careful while painting a still life. It's important to be aware of where you need to leave the highlight and avoid touching those areas. If you accidentally paint over a highlight, you can use a clean tissue or cloth to remove the paint if it is still wet. If the paint has dried, then you can use the lifting technique to lift off the paint. I used a medium value to paint the background. Now I'm using a light value to paint inside the glass. Next, I'm going to paint the shadow of the glass with the gray shade that is on my palette using the wet on wet technique. I'm giving the shadow a slight tint of muted vermilion hue to make it more interesting. To get a muted vermilion hue, I added a small amount of paint spray to it. Since the painted area inside the wine glass has dried completely, I now painting the details on the base and stem of the wine glass using muted gray. If there is a puddle of watercolor pigment on the background, you can tilt the paper and use a damp brush to lift off the excess pigment. The background is still wet, but now I'm starting to paint inside the wine glass. I'm using vermilion hue to paint two specific areas as shown in the video. I'm mixing vermilion hue with Payne's gray to get a reddish brown color, which I am using to paint the wine. You can see the highlight on the wine indicated by the arrow in the reference image. While painting the wine, be careful to preserve this highlight area. As you move from the left to the right side of the wine, you need to reduce the pigment's value. To do this, dip the brush in water to release some of the pigment. If there is too much water on the brush, gently press the bristles against the rim of the water container to remove the excess. It will be confusing if I over explain where I apply the dark, medium, and light values. So I'm sharing the reference image in the description. You can download it and use it to understand it precisely. Using a dark value of Payne's gray, I'm painting the right side of the wine glass. Then I'm adding details with medium value of gray from my palette. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more watercolor painting videos. See you in my next video. Until then, take care and bye bye from Prema.